Tonight on the Cover One post-game show, we are contractually obligated to be here. But first, hands
Broadcasting live to Bills Mafia Worldwide with Greg Tompsett and Aaron Quinn.
Welcome to the NFL. Doesn't matter what's happened before today. Today's a brand new day. It's a brand new season.
Your number one podcast for objective Buffalo Bills coverage. No matter where you are, we got you covered.
Good evening and welcome to a show that Aaron and I have to do because we care about our sponsors and accepted their money in contractual obligation to discuss every game that the Buffalo Bills play. And this was a game that the Buffalo Bills played. So now we're going to talk about it. Over to you, Aaron.
You know what, though? Honestly, Greg, this is going to be good for me. I need this. Otherwise, I'd be on Twitter just doom scrolling right now. The only thing I'm going to say right now is the chat is going. We appreciate that everybody is here. If you guys can keep it cool, I am all for Jets fans coming in here and doing some victory laps and having fun. I'm going to trash on this team, the Bills, just as much, but let's just keep it cool. We don't want to have to boot anybody, but we appreciate everybody that's here right now. But Greg, I think this is going to be helpful for me. It is going to be cathartic. As much as this show is good when there's winning, one of my favorite things is to be able to sit here and talk with you and talk this out so I can get to bed tonight. Otherwise, I'm just going to doom scroll and be pissed all night.
Yeah, we're going to go through a lot. Sadly, a great deal of this comes down to one central point in person, but we're going to talk about a lot of it and the things that were going on, and we will try to find a path through here. So ultimately, I'm going to try to get my crap together here. The Buffalo Bills have lost to the New York Jets in the season opener on Monday Night Football in New York with a score of 22-16. The Jets won in overtime on a walk-off punt return, which is new. Maybe the last time I remember that was like Deshaun Jackson with the Giants on like a Christmas game. I remember Tom Coughlin getting mad and screaming at the punter that he was supposed to kick it out of bounds. I don't think that was in overtime. I think that was a walk-off as regulation.
Yeah.
So this is new and a fun new way. We also might have had the Bills giving up the catch of the year for 3 straight years. So we've got an early leader for that. That's good to look forward to. I love that.
We're supposed
every
to be
year
making
when
me
award
feel better,
show,
Greg.
When award show comes. So ultimately we'll go through all of our normal wrap up here. But I mean, all the praise goes to Josh Allen. He is the best thing that's ever happened to this franchise. He's likely the best player that's ever played for this franchise, or has the potential to be. And this game's his fault. The Buffalo Bills lost tonight because of Josh Allen. Maybe one of the interceptions I can give a pass. It was kind of an arm punt. It really didn't matter. That one wasn't there. The other ones were forced balls. There were guys open underneath. Hell, the third one was a 3rd and 2 with both Stefon Diggs and Dalton Kincaid open for the first down, and he forces it where you could see Whitehead reading what he was going to do. He knew where Josh was going with the ball. He tries to scramble and make up for the one play and a fumble with a huge hit off Clemens, whatever. That was him trying to make good on a weird exchange, whatever, but he still fumbled it. It is what it is. 4 turnovers in a game that we were up 13-3, had full control of. They had their backup quarterback in and no real semblance of offense.
Yeah.
And Josh Allen gave them opportunities, and they're talented enough that Breece Hall, Delvin Cook, Garrett Wilson, they're talented enough to take advantage, and they did.
I talk about toxic differential all the time. We don't track it in the same way that we used to. The data's just not there every year to see who's leading the league. But I'll tell you, like, a recipe to lose a game to a team that has no business winning is to lose toxic differential by I lost count in the in overtime, and obviously the punt return would have added to it, but I had it at 9-2 Jets over the Bills, and that shows itself in that this was a toothless offense. We talked about it here. We'll go through all these drives and go through quarter by quarter, but Greg, how many times did we get on this podcast last year on a post-game show and talk about either a disappointing loss, or we didn't have a lot, but those disappointing losses, or those games that were just too close or closer than you wanted them to be, and Josh didn't play that well, where there was a stretch in the middle of the game where it was 5-6 possessions in a row where the offense only gets 3 points and you had momentum and you were unable to capitalize and put a team away. They did that tonight, and you had this team creating explosive plays on both sides of the ball. And that's just a recipe for disaster. And you're right, with 4 of those 9 falling at the hands of Josh Allen, that's just unacceptable, man. I made a point here last year, and we talked about this offline too, that I likened it to my kid potty training last year in the middle of the winter, and he kept peeing his bed, every couple of weeks, and we were frustrated. We didn't stop loving him. We obviously love our kid. I love Josh Allen. All the things you said, like, we're not here. We're not in these big games, in the Super Bowl conversation without him. But he's still wetting his bed. My toddler's not. I'm confident he's going to make it through his bed, but I'm not confident with Josh.
Yeah.
Reared its head in the Bengals game. And that's the other thing. Like, it's week 1. Week 1's weird. I wouldn't be as upset as I am right now if the last time we saw Josh Allen, it didn't look this bad also, Greg.
Yeah.
Jason,
So
thank you very much here.
really appreciate it. Yeah,
kind of
Jason
you.
here. This is the first time I'm angry at Josh. I've never thought anything but positive about him since the start, even in the rough times. But what he just did is not acceptable. I wouldn't trade him for anyone, but what I just saw is not okay. Spot on by Jason there. And a couple others, David asking, is there still hope? Appreciate all that you guys do. Bill feels like the same Bills we saw at the end of last season. It's hard to argue, David. I don't know that there's a ton to argue of seeing pretty similar decision making, pretty similar things there. I'll get to, I'm just not a silver line. I'll get to a little bit of explanation here in a moment. Sean, it's almost like Josh can't sense momentum swings. The timing of his turnovers just completely compound the momentum swings. Spot on for that. Eric, is it time to start worrying about Josh's off the field process? I don't know. I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. What he's doing, there's still way more good than bad. Tonight was more bad than good. Tonight, that wasn't the case.
Yes.
Overall, there's still been more good
still
than bad.
Week 1. Week 1's a big liar. It's always
correct.
been.
Every season we see this. Week 1 is a liar. One of our most exciting seasons we've seen in a long, long time started with an ugly loss to the Steelers in week 1.
Joe Burrow was terrible this weekend too. I don't think Joe Burrow's terrible. Right?
Yeah, I don't think Joe Burrow is a horrible Joe Burrow is actually worse than Josh Allen.
Yeah.
So here, Jared asking an interesting one. Dable had the control, knew how to keep Josh steady and not letting him be the old sugar high Josh. Dorsey can't do that. He's still learning to be an OC. I think that's.
Are they too much friends? Are they too much on the same level?
Maybe. Dable definitely had a little bit more control. I think we forget the Sugar High Josh nickname came from while Dable was the OC. So, I think we remember things the way we want to. With Dable, the 6-point game against Jacksonville happened under Dable too. There's lots of horrible games that happen there, but I do think he was able to kind of rattle Josh's cage a little bit more and like get him back in line a little bit better than Dorsey does. And obviously, he's also has like a 10-year head start on play calling and things like that.
And some of this conversation too, man, like I wonder if there was a Packers podcast back in the 90s.
Oh,
some jabronis were getting on there. Yeah. And
Allen is the living embodiment of Favre turned up to 11.
Some of these big games where Brett Favre just blew it for your team, but they knew they also didn't. They were a top team in the NFL that whole run because they had Brett Favre, right? And even with Rodgers, it was a little bit that way. He had games where he would come out and just dog it like this, and so it's gonna happen. But man, it's tough because especially that 2020 season was so clean for us, right? And you saw his ability to dial it back for a stretch and for long periods of stretches, especially in those big games in the playoff games that we've seen when it is all clicking. it's literally perfect, Greg. I always gave fans a hard time of saying like, oh, you can't ask for perfect football. And then we saw what the Bills did to the Patriots and Josh Allen playing an absolutely perfect game of football. And to know that that's there and it goes so far in the other direction sometimes, it's that for years we talked about the Josh Allen experience, right? We thought maybe we were off the roller coaster more than we are. We're still very much in the experience.
Yeah, here I'm pretty sure this is a Jets person, but the Jets D is scary. That's it.
Yeah.
Can't run on any. The Jets D is awesome. So if you're gonna take any solace or kind of hope away from this game, and that hey, it's not going to be like this, the Jets D is awesome. They are phenomenal, and they're going to do this to a lot of people. And it's going to be hard to put up points on them as we go. And I think that some of the, there's a couple comments here, Justin, about, McDermott led defensive kryptonite has always been the run D. There's, and here David asking if there's still hope. Absolutely. There's still hope. And I think that any frustration outside of the offense and Josh Allen tonight, I think is misguided. Don't get me wrong. Some missed tackles, giving up those long, runs to Breece Hall are not acceptable. That's not okay. But ultimately, even in each of those, they held and those gave up a field goal. They gave up 289 yards. You should win every game that you give up 289 yards. They gave up 13 first downs. You should win every game that you give up 13
16
first
points
downs.
In regulation.
All of the points. The 3 points were off of the long run. Yep. All the rest of them were off turnovers where they were gifted short fields.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't get me wrong. The defense was not perfect tonight, but they also, they were. I think that it's crazy that we only had 3 sacks registered tonight. They must have had 10 quarterback hits. A ton of those pressures directly led to interceptions, directly led to throwaways on third down. Those are the same as a sack. We caused a punt. We caused a turnover. It's the same thing when you have pressure on third down that causes a punt. It's just like a sack. So the defense wasn't perfect tonight, but the defense played winning football tonight. The defense played good enough to win tonight. Absolutely. And they were put in a poor position.
A terrible position. Yep.
So let's go a little bit through some of the other positions, and then we'll talk through and see if we can find a drive of the game to help our friends with West-Herr. I'm sure we can come up with one. So again, we talked about Josh, 29 of 41, 236 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions, and a fumble, 5 sacks. I don't know that I felt during the game that the Jets D line was as dominant as what 5 sacks feels like. I feel like he had enough time. There was a couple times where he actually had a decent amount of time. I don't think it was, I guess it's hard watching games like last night with the Cowboys and the Giants and some of the other ones where it was, or the Browns and the Bengals, where just they could never get any plays going. I feel like the Bills offensive line, for as concerned as I was against this Jets front, I actually thought they were okay. Is that crazy?
I don't know. Super hard to judge offensive line over broadcast. Going to be probably the first thing I check out when I do take a look. There was plenty that didn't look good. I will say, I don't think that all of Josh's tension in the pocket and getting out of the pocket and looking frantic at times was unfounded. And I think maybe some of the times that it was unfounded is just a lack of trust right now. In
late in games, it's super hard to get frustrated with him if he's been pressured to then immediately trust them and not bail from a pocket later on.
He was evading a lot of pressure still. Just as many times as the line did well, they put him in bad positions where he had to make them look good. So I think they'll be in a pretty equal mix. I think PFF will grade Allen with a number of responsibility for some of the pressures that he saw. Spencer Brown got walked back a number of times and caused some bad plays. And I even saw Deion Dawkins getting pushed back on his heels quite a bit. I felt like, the interior looked like it held up a little bit better, although Mitch Morse had obviously some struggles with Quinnen Williams. Everyone's going to.
Yeah, I'm not gonna fault anybody for struggling with Quinnen Williams. He's a monster.
But it felt like the edges were continuously getting pushed back and quickly. And I think that presented to Josh, like seeing an instant push on those edges kind of jumpstarts that, like, I got to get back out of here. Like, those guys are coming. I don't want to take these hits. So it's a chicken or the egg thing. Is Josh Is the trust not there, or is Josh just jumping the gun and perceiving pressure that's not there, and the looks they're giving him are confusing him, and he's turning into sugar high?
Yeah, a couple other pieces here, just as we're trying to check some of the boxes. I thought James Cook looked pretty good. I wasn't expecting a lot of run success against this team, so 12 carries for 46 yards was actually okay.
A little
against the Jets.
frustrated a couple of these drives here that I was talking about in that span where they went 5-6 drives with only getting 3 points, that they went away from the run game here, because you thought with Josh playing sporadic that you would try to get that physicality going, and probably my critique of Dorsey is not sticking to that, right?
Yeah, some of the ones when we had the lead, kind of grinding out a little bit more to
Give
be
the
there.
defense a break.
We saw a couple touches for Latavius Murray, one carry for Damian Harris. Each of them got some catches. Latavius Murray had 1, Harris had 2, Cook had 4, and I thought looked okay in most of his checkdowns. So I thought the running back room looked fine, especially considering the front they were running against. I thought that was reasonable. Steph looked awesome.
Awesome as always.
Stefon Diggs looked amazing, especially adding in that you're going against Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed. 10 catches for 102 yards, 10 catches on 13 targets, and even a couple of them he got, I thought he did technically extend his arms, but that wasn't that bad of offensive pass interference for what we normally see. I'm going to make Sauce was complaining about that ahead of time.
Yeah, I'm going to make it a point to go back and look at that matchup a little bit, because I want to put together a clip of all the grabbing Sauce Gardner was doing. Like,
between the two of them, the only penalty was an offensive pass interference.
It was a little bit criminal that they called that, especially in that situation with how the game was being played. I don't mind Sauce like reaching on Diggs if Diggs is going off 10 for 102 yards, like grab at him all day long. Sure. But then don't call it when Diggs does get some contact too. I just keep it.
So Gabe Davis had 2 catches for 32, had the really big 26-yarder early, and then I don't know if Josh felt like he had gone away from him too long, and that's why that third pick was forced to him, is maybe he had it in his head that he needed to get a ball to Gabe. I know our friend Pat Moran was frustrated with Gabe not getting the ball, and multiple others on Twitter were looking for, at that point, Gabe had gone a long time with 1 catch for 1 target. I thought the tight end mix looked good, the two of them, but the weird part was I think they had, between the two of them, it was 3 for 25 and 4 for 26, and I kind of felt like all of it was in the first half. Maybe one of those catches was later in the game, so just that second half was so disjointed. It's so hard to take anything away from it. It was just horrible.
They had one possession which ended in a Josh Allen interception, where I was like really excited because it went Knox for 15 yards. It was a laser from Josh, great catch to Knox. And then Kincaid was like kind of like a little screen out to Kincaid that he took for like 9 yards, super physical. And then it went to
put
Diggs.
His shoulder down really nice.
Yeah. And then they went to Diggs for 9, and it was like, all right, like let's spread out these things and get going. And then Josh, there's a pick after he stumbles. But anyway, like there was some moments here where this box score of seeing it only 4 catches for 26 and 3 for 25, like you said, like I actually loved some of the distribution that was going on here, and that usage of Kincaid in that like quick passing game really, to me, acted like the physicality you get from a run game.
Yes.
Like he brings that, like, you got to come tackle this dude. And that creates some physicality that James Cook doesn't possess as much in the run game, which I really thought they would lean more, to your point, into that in the second half, because that quick stuff was there and seemingly working. And Kincaid can get 8-9 yards from the line of scrimmage. It looks like it at will, and just drag some guys. So I don't know why you go away from that late in the game and forcing some of these smaller DBs to get physical, but that would be, again, like, Dorsey seems to come in with a pretty good game plan, but it's the adjusting that doesn't seem to really change during the game, and you kind of go away from the stuff that's working. It's a little weird. Yeah,
we'll never know. One, we all love Josh, so it's always easier to blame the offensive coordinator for the play calls and what he should do. We got to remember, every single play call has 4 or 5 reads, multiple checks at the line, multiple opportunities for audibles.
Yep.
The players decide what the play is going to be and where the ball is going to go. And yes, is it great when you have a play caller who's setting up your players with super easy ones where it's an obvious choice and everyone's going to go to that place? Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But some of this stuff, it's hard to know how much is the setup, how much is the play call, how much is anticipating Jeff Ulbricht's defensive play calls, and are you setting up things where, hey, I think they're going to be in this, so that should give him the option to do that. And then how much of it is Josh making those choices, Josh making those checks, Josh making those audibles, and some of those different things at the line. It's hard to know. It's really hard for us to know. I will say, I think it's fair. I didn't see a ton of schemed up easy things. I thought I saw more pre-snap motion earlier in the game that seemed to slow down a little bit later. I liked the Deontay Hardy usage early on. I like some of the quick little pop screens, because again, we needed to kind of matriculate the ball down the field. We needed a lot of, get us to 3rd and short, just get us to easy conversions where we can move the ball down the field. This is a really good defense. You're not going to get a lot of time to have 7-step drops, 4 or 5 seconds in the pocket to take deep shots. You need to move the ball down the field. And I just felt like I saw so much more of that in the first half. I want to know, I wish I knew whose fault it was that we went away from it later. And of course, the answer is some Dorsey, some Josh. I wish I knew how much of each.
Yeah, it's tough because the way Josh is playing here and the carelessness with the ball, you don't always get in the rhythm of the play caller wants to do and establish some of the stuff you want, right? You're killing drives. You're putting yourself behind in the game plan. So that's tough. I know Ken Dorsey is definitely not scheming up plays where Josh Allen just chucks it up into double coverage deep into the end zone, right? Like, so
that was not his play call.
These are not the things that are on him. And we'll go back and watch and see what was available there. That one that was where it seemed forced to Gabe Davis, I don't know what the progressions were. I'm not going to speculate on what the progressions were, but I did see Stefon Diggs running the crosser kind of wide open with the ability to get the first down when you only needed a couple, right? Like, so where is the processing and Josh not seeing the field? Because we're beyond, we're beyond that. He needs to see the whole field and those things and be beyond the progression. Just because a guy is 4th, 5th in where you're supposed to be going with the ball, you got to see him open.
Yeah, and because I even said in the moment, it looked like Dalton Kincaid was open, and when you saw the replay, Sauce Gardner was kind of floating where maybe you don't test that. I still think he could have thrown it to the outside, and Dalton Kincaid would have fallen down for the 2 yards and been fine. But how low on the pecking order is Stefon Diggs in any
coming across on a crosser on that situation,
on a crossing route on 3rd and 2, and you're by far number 1 receiver? I mean, I get it's a flood concept to the right. I guess I understand that most of your looks are to the right, but how far down your first read, second read, third read is Stefon Diggs running wide open across the field? And again, that's not a guarantee that you're going to go down and score.
No,
that's not a guarantee that it's going to be a game-winning, touchdown or anything like that. It's an awesome Jets defense. It was going to be hard, but you
didn't give yourself a chance.
You at that point, and that was the really backbreaking one, because at that point you're talking about, we had just seen a couple nice touches from Latavius Murray. We have the ball up a touchdown. We're moving up at that point. You're probably going to convert and get to about the 46, 47, almost at midfield with a first down, clock running, 9 minutes left in the 4th quarter. You're about to then, take a couple more, chunks of time off the clock, more handoffs to Latavius Murray. You're getting into that 4-minute offense phase, and say you only pick up one more first down and you end up just settling for a field goal. Well, now it's 16-6. You're up 10 points. It's probably 6 minutes left.
Yeah.
And the game's, for all intents and purposes, is over. And instead, you give an interception where they're only at their own 43. They're already very close. You let them kind of put together their first real drive. That one play, Zach Wilson was not great tonight, but the one play where he was like kind of half falling down, I think Leonard Floyd had clipped his heel and he was on his way down and rifled that ball to Allen Lazard. For any of the questions you have about Zach Wilson, the boy's got an arm. Like he can rifle when he steps into it. He can sling the ball hard. and just that one just kills me because
Backbreaker.
There's just so many other things. Again, I can excuse the fumble sucked. Don't get me wrong, it sucked.
Right.
But like he's trying to make a play. It was kind of like it bumped into Trent Sherfield and then he picked it up and had it and was running with the ball and Clemens crushed him. That's not him making a bad decision. That's him trying to make good out of nothing. The arm punt one isn't the end of the world.
Sure. There's context in some of these.
Yeah, I don't love the shot to Diggs because we could have, it was only second down. You could have tried to do something different, and you're throwing it up to your number one receiver, hoping he makes a play. Like, all right, I can even talk myself into that one. The third one just kills me. It was a forced ball. Whitehead watched what he was doing the entire time and easily undercut it and just jogged over there and snagged it for his third interception. It's going to be hard for me.
2 yards. You just need 2 yards. Like
it's going to be hard for me to forget that one.
Yep. I bet when we look back, the run was probably close to there for Josh to pick up 2 yards.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think Diggs was right there too. So the options being there are going to make it worse. I'm sure there'll be some screenshots that make it look pretty.
Oh yeah, like you said, the one watching Diggs just jog across by himself is infuriating.
Yeah. It doesn't look good for Josh and the ability to at some point with all these turnovers. I think we'll get to the drive of the game at some point, and he did have a redeeming drive here at some point, but with all the turnovers, you just expected him to come out and put together some just magic and just pull out some crazy big thing that only Josh Allen can do and really change the narrative of how we sit out here and talk today. And he just never did. He never came back out. He put together a fine enough drive to get them in a position, but still leaving Bass with a 50-yard field goal. But you want to do drive of the game because that'll be mine.
Yeah. Well, so let me start with the other one because I think early on,
I have two.
Early on, what ended up being it was tied 3-3. Yeah. They end up going on, and this is like through the biggest chunk of the second quarter. Ends up being an 11-play, 75-yard drive, 5 minutes and 52 seconds. You saw early on, we kind of got, James Cook got swallowed up by Quinnen Williams. Then you come back with the rifle to Stefon Diggs. And then you get the nice combination that you talked about earlier with, nice throw to Dalton Kincaid, a little scramble from Josh to pick up a third down. And then we got an outside run to James Cook where some of those power tosses were actually making some headway. And we get the big play to Gabe Davis, which was his only touch for a long, long time.
Yep.
And just set it up really nicely and ended up I in real time, I was certain that Josh was over the line
of scrimmage. Yeah.
I do think that technically the call was correct. His toe was still technically on the 5-yard line, but good Lord,
as close as you could be.
98% of his person was over that line when he threw that touchdown.
He's a lot of person.
Is a lot
of person.
There was
not a lot of person on the other side.
Yeah, like a toe and a half was still on the line.
But very quintessential Josh Allen rolling as far possible as you can before the play gets extended and just tossing a little.
I will say, shout out to Eric Turner in the Cover One staff chat when we were talking about this, pointing out that one actually was a bit of growth from Josh. Like he could have just tried to put his shoulder down and hero ball his way into the end zone, and he didn't, and did throw the ball. So that is what we want in those spots. So for as much as I'm laying at his feet tonight and as much complaining I'm doing about an awesome player, that was a really good play and a smart decision and resulted in a touchdown. And that was my West-Herr drive game.
But when you're when you're supposedly historically good offense and you are trying to win 13 games, he's got to do that 3 times. Like you got to put these drives together 2 to 3 times every single game, score over 20 points. So kudos, Josh, for doing that. That's all great. We're going to give you a little bit more kudos here, Josh, because we're going to go to the end of the game. There's 1 minute and 48 seconds left. The Bills have 1 timeout. Jets are ahead 16-3. They get the field goal there. After that Josh fumble, he's the only one that can get you into field goal range here. They were able to. They get a play to Diggs. Then they get the flag, the OPI comes back on Diggs, but they're able to get in range. They had 4 completions on this drive. 3 of the completions are to Diggs. This is we've seen it time and time again. For a little while, it was Beasley. Like when you need to get something going, you got to just force feed a guy. Diggs is that guy. They also, even with the 10 receptions he had, Greg, there was like a period of time where they kind of went away from Diggs. He got all those early on receptions, and then it got quiet for a minute. And then he came back on here at the end, getting 3 out of the 4 completions.
Yeah.
Right there on that last drive. And so it was 9 plays, 43 yards, took up the minute and 46 seconds, left 2 seconds on the clock. And Tyler Bass puts a big old kick out there for 50 yards off the top of the upright, a big thud. And it's good from 50. It probably would have been good from 60-ish, maybe. Like that had some leg going with it. Thank God.
Hitting the upright 2/3 of the way up that hard from 50 yards out. That would, they said he was hitting from 60 in warm-ups. That easily would have made it from 60.
It's unbelievable. We're super lucky to have him, because getting to that distance is not the type of game-winning drive that makes you feel good. Like you want to get
a heroic
in a
effort
30-yard,
40,
35-yard kick or something silly. For him to be able to go out there and handle that pressure on the road in a big situation like that, huge shout out to Tyler Bass. Unfortunately, the Bills could not capitalize on that and get the job done for him to kind of seal that save that he had. But kudos for them to at least put it in position. I was scrambling to get this show set up, thinking that we were going to have to go talk about this, with maybe a missed field goal or something. He gave you the ability to have a little bit more time, but it was not long lasting. That is my West-Herr drive of the game, was getting back and at least giving yourself a chance to get into overtime and have a chance to win a game you didn't deserve to win.
Yeah. So sincerely, thank you to our friends at West-Herr. Shout out to our guy, Bradley Gilbert, who is their social media manager and has been an awesome partner for us here at Cover One. We're excited to have them on for the rest of the season as a partner and sponsor on our postgame show. They're the biggest auto dealership everywhere in New York State. Anytime you need a car, make sure you check them out. And I will say, I'm confident in saying there will be more good post-game shows than bad post-game shows. They won't all be like tonight. So hopefully
we're still gonna have 12, 13 good ones of these.
Yeah, I doubt they'll be, and Caitlin's in here all the time, so I know this is tongue-in-cheek. She's a good time to come in here. But yeah, I think she had a trade Josh Allen super chat and trade Josh Allen to fire Sean McDermott. So she's in her like WGR call-in like wheelhouse right now.
And I hope I'll apologize to Braggs. I know Josh Allen is a West-Herr athlete, so I know we were pretty harsh on Josh tonight. I might have to write a apology to their West-Herr team there, but
sternly worded letter.
Yeah, we'll have plenty of praise for Josh this year, though.
Yes,
this has become very singular focused episode for us, and it's rare. We've had a couple of them, but I do think Bills Mafia needs to pull off the baby gloves with how we handle conversations about Josh Allen. We need to also pull back a little bit how we criticize other elite quarterbacks when they have bad games, maybe for a little bit, until we can get out of that. But so are we done with the offensive side of the ball now?
Yes,
because I think there's some praise to be handed out and some good things that we can kind of talk about here on this other side of the ball.
So on the defensive side of the ball, let's start with the front. I thought they were disruptive all night. I thought that they were making a difference, moving it. I thought that we should feel really good about Leonard Floyd as an addition. He was disruptive the entire night. Gregory Rousseau had his normal game of, kind of compacting the pocket, disruptive, but also a couple killer run stops.
That one run stop on a second and something that set him up for a 3rd and long was the Bills were up 13-6. No, they were up 13-3, and they had just had a huge run from Breece Hall. We're moving the ball. He gets that stop, and they get him into 3rd and 13 and hold for a field goal. That's a huge stop at them. Obviously, the game doesn't rear its head for the Bills in this way, but huge stop in that moment. Big play by Groot.
Yeah. So I thought that was really good. We had the one injury scare with Jordan Phillips at one point, but he came back in. Sean's comment here, I swear Milano gets faster and more violent every year.
He is unbelievable.
Like the one play that he hit Dalvin Cook for a 5-yard loss, I don't even understand how he was moving at the speed that he was moving.
Yeah,
like
he just
I can't wait to see the all 22. Did he get a running start from like the hash?
No, he just he got to the grouping of people and just exploded through it. Like his acceleration really just is super impressive.
He was moving so fast when he hit Dalvin Cook.
I'll tell you right now, like there's some positives to talk about on this defense. It was mostly Matt Milano saving a lot of bad play. I think
Yeah.
when we see some all 22, there's gonna be some bad Terrell Bernard play. There's gonna be some bad safety play, some bad tackling from DBs. And Matt Milano made some big freaking plays in this game and saved a lot of probably otherwise not great looking stuff from members of this defense. So MVP, even though in the loss here, Matt Milano was the best player on the field for the Buffalo Bills tonight by him and Stefon Diggs. Those are the guys that just stood out as these are the best players on each side of the ball tonight.
100% accurate. I don't think anyone can make a case otherwise. No. I think the rest of the defensive line was good. Ed Oliver was disruptive here or there. This is not an amazing offensive line, but the interior of the line is actually pretty decent.
Pretty good.
Elijah Vera Tucker, Connor McGovern, like their interior is okay. So it's one of those defensive lines where we probably should have been disruptive, but they were. They were disruptive. I think they would have been disruptive against Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is
they were
years
early.
better.
Yeah,
they hit him every time he dropped back. So they would have been disruptive there. He is light years better than Zach Wilson. I have no idea how this game would have turned out if Rodgers hadn't played. I don't even want to think through that right now. As you go back a layer, again, we talked about Milano. He was amazing. Terrell Bernard was pretty much what we expected. We didn't get picked apart in the middle of the field. There wasn't a ton of tight end, plays there. He got washed out on one of the screen plays that went for a while. I think
I feel like that's where Aaron Rodgers, I would have been most interested to see a veteran quarterback versus
Did
Zach
he try
Wilson.
to go at him?
Yeah, does Zach Wilson know how to take advantage of the middle of the field like that? I don't know.
I still think we're probably not that far from a Christian Kirksey call up. And I when I say not that far, maybe Sunday. I don't think that's crazy. Well,
I think the max is like a month. You give
correct.
This guy a month, whatever, not a quarter of the season, but right about that.
I thought that at the time of the signing that like, hey, I don't know if week 2 is out of the question. And I don't think that Terrell Bernard did anything today that took that out of play.
Right.
But again, Terrell Bernard was not a disaster today. He was okay. He was kind of what we all said, like, hey, he's probably the least bad of what we got, and he's going to be all right. And the long run play was not his fault. I'll get to whose fault that was in a moment. The long run play was not his fault. He was filling his gap and doing what he was supposed to do, and that's supposed to be that tackle was supposed to be made. So I'm going to give 2 points of praise and then some criticism here. I thought Trey White looked awesome in coverage. I thought he did a great job. He did exactly what he's supposed to do on that touchdown play. Garrett Wilson makes a ridiculous catch. That was not bad
can't
coverage.
Guard that.
He was in position. He batted at the ball. That like triple tip catch as you're falling down to the ground is a complete fluke. That was not Trey getting beat, and he was following Garrett Wilson around. And there's a reason that Garrett Wilson, who is one of the best receivers in the NFL, had 34 yards on the day. Like that. Trey White looks back and is ready. Trey White's never been a great run defender, and he had at minimum 2 missed tackles today, maybe a third one, and the one missed tackle directly led to the 83-yard run that, thank God, we'll get to Christian Benford here in a second. Thank God Christian Benford had the hustle in him to chase that down and held
and that Breece Hall ran out of gas.
Correct. Breece Hall ran out of gas. I think maybe even like a not coming back from injury, Breece Hall probably takes that the whole way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think that was like literal endurance. He didn't plan on breaking an 80-yard run.
Correct. He was
week
not
1
prepared for that. But still, shout out to Christian
hustle.
Benford, because if Christian Benford doesn't hustle, I mean,
that's
Breece Hall definitely could have cruised into the end zone. He didn't have to
sprint
the entire way. Anthony here, the long runs were Tremaine Edmonds' fault. That's a great comment.
And Leslie Frazier.
Leslie Frazier too.
Yeah.
But
the defense looked similar. Like this felt like a Bills game, right?
Yeah.
Where the offense wasn't doing the defense any favors, and the defense get gashed for a couple big plays, but end up bending and not breaking.
Yep.
So it's hard to get super frustrated on that run too, man. I tweeted it out. I was pretty frustrated with the way Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer looked on that. Like it wasn't their fault. Micah got blasted and just rolled over, and wasn't even.
They're never gonna bite off blocks from offensive.
No,
I-
but and
I
then
gotta
Jordan
say-
just got on his heels and got spun around. He just ended up in a real bad position. And there was another play where I think it was both of
out
them,
in
just
space.
angles, just bad angle taking. Right
So the
now.
part that freaks me out, obviously myself, you, Eric, Cover One as a whole, we have been huge supporters of Jordan Poyer. He has been, I think we've had him as defensive MVP maybe twice through the last couple of years.
Yeah.
There's a little twinge of me that's nervous because he doesn't look as confident in himself as I've seen in these years past. And you can see it in the hesitation on some of those angles. And the one that we're thinking about the same play.
Yeah.
And I think it's Breece Hall. There was a moment where it was decision time in the open field. And you kind of saw him pause for a minute and you could see him realize, oh crap, I'm not going to be able to get him. And it just made me nervous. So, there's a lot of safeties who
Breece
have
Hall's good and fast,
crazy
also,
explosive, super good.
Yeah.
Lots of guys have had to come to some realizations about their explosion and closing on the ball and have still played really, really good football by taking smarter angles.
You just got to gauge it and make
I kind of hope that maybe that was that aha moment for him, and we're going to see those smarter, safer angles from him. And that, maybe it's not the exact same crazy closing speed that he always had, but he can still be really, really good. But those two plays both made me go, oh, that's not right. That's not what we're used to. That's not what we're used to seeing. So we need to see, and that's okay. Like I'm happy that Poe is back. I'm happy he's still a starter.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We need to see better than that. And he'll say the same thing.
There wasn't
say the same thing when he sees that.
Of shots downfield for the Jets to take, right? Their production came from explosive runs.
Yep.
They had a couple explosive passes, but they were comeback routes. They were finding holes in the zone, which is going to be the heel of this Bills defense. But you didn't see what is the cornerstone of this Bills defense for time. They talked about it a bunch in the broadcast. Aikman talking about, hey, their ability to disguise some coverages and make Zach Wilson hold on to the ball. So there's still some of that ability that they have. But when plays get to that third level of the defense, that deep level of the defense, and it's in open space, that's when, for me, the concerns about, well, are they going to have the athleticism to hold up with that? Because we do know the Bills are going to be prone to giving up some of the bigger explosive plays, especially in the run game. And you have to have the safeties as that blanket. They've been so consistent for so long of stopping those big runs, stopping those big plays. That's hard to watch when they don't. But again, week one, we'll give them some time to settle in and get back to playing together.
I was a little bit nervous. The one play, Taron Johnson looks like he at one point I was nervous that he got his bell rung and had a concussion. It looked like he got checked out on the sideline, was okay, and re-entered the game.
And Rapp came in as the backup nickel in that situation, which I thought was interesting because Siran Neal was the backup nickel,
or maybe even Cam Lewis,
But I feel like validates some of what I see in Rapp of being able to maybe when they are doing that time of the mirroring of Taron in that style.
Just do what Taron does, be on the other side of Milano.
And so him having that flexibility to just come in as that nickel makes me feel way better about that situation, because Taron has had issues getting her. He played the way he plays. He gets those thuds that he took, right? And so you got to have a guy that comes in. So that was a nice little, hey, that's what we're going to do in that situation going forward.
And I'm certainly, for anybody who's wondering, I didn't see any dime looks today, but I also, Zach Wilson's not the quarterback you're going to play that against. I'm curious if in an Aaron Rodgers 3rd and long, if we would have seen some of those looks. And I think once you got to Zach Wilson, you just weren't going to switch to that. There wasn't a reason to switch to that. That wasn't where those conversions were coming from.
Sure.
One last shout out here on the defensive side. I thought Christian Benford looked good.
Yeah.
I thought Christian Benford held his own,
played well,
had good closing, good tackles. The awesome hustle play, obviously on Breece Hall, and I think Elena Getzenberg was the one that pointed this out before I saw anybody else point it out. He played every snap. There was no rotation. I don't know that Dane Jackson. I didn't see he got credit with a tackle here, so I'm not sure if it was a special teams tackle.
Probably.
I didn't see him come in as a starting defender. So as far as I can tell, Christian Benford and Trey White and Terrence Johnson, like they played every snap, and that was just the defense there. So Again, I thought the defensive front looked good. I think when Von Miller comes in and is healthy, they're going to be a problem. That's great. That's really encouraging. I think Terrell Bernard was okay. I don't know that he played so badly that he has to lose his job, but I also don't think he played well enough to stop them from maybe seeing what they have in Christian Kirksey. We'll see where that goes. I think you're not wrong that maybe we see it for another week or two, but I won't be shocked if we see a practice squad elevation and him being available next week. I don't think that's crazy.
Yeah, I think you're going to start to see it ramping up and putting pressure on. You have a little bit, not to get out of this game too much and look too far ahead here, because I do want to take a whole day, the next couple of days here, and really digest what we just saw. And I don't want to sleep on the Raiders. They have some weapons on offense and stuff, but there's an opportunity. Yeah, they won. They're not.
They're 1-0 and we're 0-1.
Totally. Yeah, I'm not going to sleep on them, but I think you do have an opportunity to really maybe get right in some ways, and they're going to test you in some ways, but this might be the type of game that you had to take a little bit of medicine and get right. But how many times have we had to say this on the post-game show, Greg, of like, oh, maybe this will be the game that wakes up the Bills and they stop doing this crap. So hopefully that's it and they get past it. But maybe it's a good time to say what we're doing next week then.
Yeah. So as we get ready to move forward, the good news is there are 16 more regular season games. I'm very confident there's going to be a playoff game after those 16 regular season games. And there will be a lot more wins coming up down the season. And hopefully one of them will be next weekend as Aaron and I get together with our guys over at Leftern. Greg Moyer is a fantastic proprietor of Leftern and has helped organize this fantastic block party out there that we're going to be there at the 500 block of downtown Buffalo with, places. Obviously Leftern's going to be open, but also bringing in other fantastic people like Del Reed and the guys at 26 Shirts, Oxford Pennant, and some awesome looking food too.
Yeah, I actually was down there last week with Greg checking out our spot because we're going to be down there obviously doing a live podcast. We got Nate Geary, Bulldog, a couple other awesome guests coming down. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And he was talking about some of the food that's going to be available and just the setup on the street. And I looked ahead. It looks like the weather's going to be nice for a long weekend. I know there's other events going on too. And it seems like if you're a Bills fan coming into town here for the home opener, it seems like it's a little bit staggered. I was talking to a few people that they're going to do one in the morning. They're going to come over to this one in the afternoon. And then I think Rumblings is having one later in the evening. And so everything's staggered for a really fun weekend in Buffalo. The whole city's going to be buzzing with Bills. If you've never been to Buffalo and are coming here, this is a good way to meet fans, do all that stuff. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing you, Greg. I haven't seen you.
We usually get together
for training camp. And we didn't do it this year. So I'm excited. I'm excited to hang out, talk with fans, and figure out how we can get over this feeling that I have tonight.
I'm hopeful that Macy's Pizza and Q42 are going to help me get over this feeling. So
if not, we might have to go over to Fatty's Beer Company around the corner, and that will help us get rid of it. For sure.
We'll figure it out for sure. Some other great people. Pat Moran's coming out, Catherine Fitzgerald, all kinds of some good people.
Alex Brasky,
talk with us, Alex Brasky. So make sure you come and stop by and say hi to us too. We'd love to see everybody. We'll be out there hanging out probably the whole day from 12 to 6 during the whole event. We'll try to be out there hanging out, saying hi to everybody. We'll have to step away for maybe
when I'm not eating
a little bit in the middle
of pizza. And...
when we're not recording the show or shoving our face full of pizza, I'll make sure to shake hands with my greasy Macy's Pizza hand.
That's it.
So let's kind of step away a little bit. Chad, really appreciate it. That's my cousin Chad.
Hey Chad.
So make sure you guys help out and press that like button. That really does help. There's a ton of you guys in here hanging out, and we really appreciate it.
So far past my bedtime. Just give us a like.
I can't wait to go to bed. Yeah, I'm gonna bed for it. Just a pity like for us just sitting here going through this.
I'm gonna wake up with kids at like 6 a.m.
Oh, that's gross.
Help me.
So let's try to step away a little bit. What do we need to see? What do we want to see more of that we saw today? What were some good things we want to keep that we want to see even more of next week?
Both sides of the ball here. I'll talk real quick. I want to see that 4 and 3 receptions for Kincaid and Knox increase. Get them filling in that Beasley role, even if it's together, even if it's not one getting 8-9 targets. Get them like 10 12 targets between the two of them and keep those chains moving, keep that offense ahead of schedule. Don't get into the third and longs. And obviously, that run game. I think keeping James Cook involved in the run game, your interior offensive line, I think, and the strength of Spencer Brown in the right side of that run line is going to be run offense, and you got to establish some of that physicality. And he has shown, I mean, that sweep play, go back and watch that sweep.
Yeah. Oh, when he's
Gorgeous.
out in space, it's great.
Moving, yeah, get him involved out there, stress and push the stress on defenses. So they went away from stuff that seemed to be working, get into that a little bit more. And then on the defensive side of the ball, keep doing you. It does seem like, at least right now, the philosophy is very much similar. You saw some sprinkling in of some, not just leaving 4 rushing. He blitzed with 5 guys at times. Like, there was a little bit more aggression that we saw, but the philosophy seems the same. Like, it still felt like a Buffalo Bills defense that we watched today. And the way they were flying to the ball, Matt Milano really leading the way. Like, I didn't think we would see even more to the ceiling of Matt Milano, but if he can maintain that level of play that he played with tonight, dude, we might see him unlock a whole different level without Tremaine Edmonds. So that is the stuff I'd like to see more of, is him continuing to just be a freaking wrecking ball in every aspect of the game, and everybody else around just swarming and doing their roles.
Spot on. I like that both. I like the usage of Deontay Hardy. I want to see more pre-snap motion, more movement, more chances to get him out in space on screens. I thought that was good. This is a very fast, great rally to the ball defense, so that's not always going to be the best usage there, but I like that he was the eye candy that got things going. I think that the rookies look good. I think Osiris Torrance, do you remember hearing his name once during the entire game? And isn't that usually a great thing for offensive linemen?
Yeah.
So I don't remember him being the one giving up a lot of pressures and sacks. We'll see when it comes back, and we'll watch it back, and I'm sure he'll be graded as a 40 or something ridiculous. But I don't remember him being an issue. So we'll see where that one goes when we can see it back. I love the fact that Dalton Kincaid had 4 for 26 in the first 34 minutes of the game. I kind of wish we could have seen a little bit more of that later on. So I want to see even more of that. So I liked your call on the tight ends. And I wouldn't mind a little more creativity with Gabe Davis, or even a Trent Sherfield, another outside threat.
I thought we'd see something there. Yeah, I'm glad you brought him on.
It's really sad that literally the only time I remember seeing his jersey the entire game was on the stupid miss fumble thing on Josh's fumble at the end. He was coming in motion across and first hit and that's what got goofed up on the initial play, and Josh had to then pick it up and try to run with it. That's the only time I remember being him in the game. So I don't know if he had other snaps, but he wasn't targeted or anywhere else near the ball. I'd love to be in a position where we actually can run the 4-minute offense, because it seemed like we were about to do that with Latavius Murray before the 3rd interception. That would have been cool. The same thing on defense. I want to see the rotation of the defensive line look good. I thought everybody deserved to be able to play there, and was made. Shaq Lawson made some plays. Tim Settle made some plays. AJ Epinesa made some plays. All those things were legit and real. I want to see more of that. And then we need to see one more game to evaluate, is Terrell Bernard going to be able to hold the fort down, or do we just need that kind of band-aid veteran to get us through that? I don't think Christian Kirksey is some silver bullet answer, but I think there's a threshold of competence that he can provide, of just knowing game calls, knowing what position to be in, a little bit more of a thumper in the run game, probably a little bit more of a liability in the coverage game. But by all means, that just means more Taylor Rapp in my life. So I'm okay with that combination if we need to do it. And then I want to see more gelling from the secondary with keep Christian Benford out there. I think he deserves to continue to be the starter going forward. And maybe that will let those 5 really come together. That'll let Poyer and Hyde trust those guys with the angles they can take and the spacing they need. And that's another thing that maybe Christian Kirksey can help with, where they won't feel obligated to come up and help. They'll be able to trust him to just do what he's supposed to do. And hopefully we see that next week against the Las Vegas Raiders.
You almost said Oakland, didn't you?
I did. I almost did. It's so weird.
It is still weird. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting week here. Sort of last minute thoughts, bit of encouragement here. It is week 1.
Yes.
This is a marathon.
Yeah,
The Bills
I
have
guarantee the Chiefs, the Bengals, and the Bills aren't going to go 0-17. I promise.
Yeah, I mean, the Chiefs lost to the Colts last year, right? Like, wacky stuff happens. The Bills had that horrible game to the Jaguars that you referenced earlier where they didn't score. Like, every year they have something where they just vomit all over themselves. It sucks that it happened opening night, prime time in front of everybody against the division rival. I think it's going to be okay. I think, to Greg's point, we're going to have a lot better drives of the game coming up, probably 12, 13 of them here in the regular season. We're going to have a lot of fun. It just sucks that the season didn't start in a fun way like we did last year with that Rams game. Okay. So try to keep it in perspective. We're going to see a lot of pretty bad football, I think, coming out on the clips. Eric and Ant are probably going to put up some not good fun things, but he's going to find some good things too in there and some reasons to have some optimism. This is still going to be a good team, still going to be a fun year. We got a lot of football ahead of us. Didn't come out of this game with any major injury concerns, right? We saw Taryn get dinged up a little bit, Jordan Phillips get dinged up a little bit, but I didn't see anybody coming off the field with anything major that we're looking for answers here into this evening. So in a loss, maybe a little bit of silver lining as he got through a really tough, terrible loss with a lot of things Sean McDermott can yell at these guys about here early in the season. And he did it without getting any injuries and coming out pretty healthy, it looks like.
Yeah. So, shout out to all the folks in the chat. You guys were fantastic tonight. We really, really appreciate you. Shout out to fantastic producer Chris Kepner, who suffered through all of those comments to put the ones up on the screen. There was
had to read all this filth.
There was a lot of terribleness to go through. And honestly, shout out to the Jets fans who came in here. You guys deserve the W. You won
with
a
what
game.
Kind of night they had too, right? Like losing
so much excitement.
Aaron Rodgers so early in this game and just the gut punch that had to be. I honestly, I have no real sense of compassion for Jets fans, but I felt empathy for them in that moment of you had so much excitement. And so for it to turn around with an exciting ending for them and their that might now, I don't know, I'm not going to speculate on Rodgers' injury.
Yeah.
That might be the highlight of that season is some big heroic come from behind. We got it done when he went out, because it could look a lot like last year for them at this point if he's out big time.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll see where that goes. Honestly, I don't root for injury ever.
No.
I don't love all the coverage that Aaron Rodgers got, and I think he's kind of a weirdo, but nobody deserves for that to happen. So I hope that it was serious. Just a foot or an ankle. There's certainly a chance that
was my suspect thing. I think I showed you as soon as I saw that play, his toes went into the ground and the pressure that was on that back just didn't look right. And the look on his face was very, I don't remember. Do you remember when Kobe Bryant just got up and walked off when he tore his, he just knew, you saw it on his face. He was yeah, that's something.
It was certainly concerning.
Yeah.
So like we said, there's going to be a lot more good games. The Bills are going to win plenty. We're really, really excited. Thank you, Craig.
Thanks, Craig.
He's thanking us for powering through tonight. Like I said, we're going to be there for you guys all season long, and we're confident that many of these shows are going to be resounding fun wins that we're going to celebrate and have a really good time together. So thank you guys for everybody. The chat, most of you guys were pretty good.
No one was mean to us, right? I didn't see anything. We kept it.
I purposely wasn't looking.
All right.
So there's probably some mean stuff about us too, but
that's all right. Whatever.
It is what it is. We appreciate you guys very, very much. On behalf of Chris Kepner and Aaron Quinn and everybody over at Cover One, make sure you're checking out everything that we're doing. We got a lot of shows for you every night of the week. Aaron and I will be back with you Wednesday night, bringing on Adrian Hernandez and the guys over there that cover the Raiders with everybody at their team, and having a good time being able to get ready for this next game. So on behalf of Chris and Aaron, I'm Greg Tompsett. You've been listening to Cover One Buffalo, and we are